Good day, everybody. Welcome to Canadian music in the 80s and 90s and more. I am happy to have one of my favorite guests here, Dennis Ellsworth, joining me. We want to talk about his new album coming out this week, I believe. Um, Modern Hope. Um, I've been listening to it for a while, enjoying it. I really like the ambience on it. Like you said, it seems to be a mood to it. Um, but you
Yeah,
recorded it out in Vancouver last year.
yeah, I did in April. I flew out as soon as I could get on an airplane.
Yeah.
Um, I I headed west, and I I I had never made an album on the West Coast, and my friend Leroy Stagger asked me if I wanted to come out and do one out there, and he would produce it. And I just thought, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, something to kind of break this routine of COVID and take a little risk, get on an airplane and fly to the other side of the country.
And there's a good musical vibe coming out of Vancouver too. I would think that helps a lot.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's a big city. There's loads of great players, and Leroy knows all those guys. So it was a no-brainer. He had some people in mind for the band and where we were going to record it and all that kind of stuff. So I just sort of put all the balls in his court for that stuff and just focused on writing the songs, so which was great.
And you got to record in what was the old Mushroom Studios, which I remember the name very well back in the old days.
Yeah, yeah, that place was crazy. It was a real treat to be able to make a record in that building. Um, and I mean, it's the vibe is still there. It's a different name, and different people running it, but man, it's a cool room. Very cool.
Do you know some of the history of the studio? Like I know
I
Spirit of the
do.
West used to record there quite a bit, but
Yeah, Spirit of the West. Hart made a record or two there.
hmm
I believe Rush recorded something there.
hmm
There's a picture of Harry Nilsson on the wall there. I don't know what he did in that space, but he was in that building. Um, yeah, I mean it's one of those studios that I always heard about, but I never really expected to be making a record there.
No, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So when did how was it putting the songs together for this? Did you have them kind of like all ready to go, or did you work on some while you were out there?
I didn't have any of them ready to go, actually. Leroy messaged me with about weeks left and asked me to send him some demos. And I just kind of said, I don't have any demos. It's not, there's nothing there to send you. Um, and so he said, well, you better get cracking. So I set aside time every day for 3 or 4 weeks, between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. I would sit on my couch with my guitar and a notebook and just start working every night. And every night I'd be sending these iPhone demos to him. So for about 3 weeks straight, he got a song a day. So and he was just like, what's going on? Why? How are all these songs happening so quickly? I would basically write one a night. Um, and then we started whittling down the list, and we picked 13 or 14 to focus on. Um, there was one song actually that I had written previously that I didn't even show him. I just got to I kind of got to the studio and just said, I think this one might work if you want to hear it. Um, and then there was a song I wrote, I kind of half wrote on the airplane, on my way west, after I watched the Kenneth Branagh film Belfast. I
Okay.
watched that movie on the airplane and started writing this lyric. And so I had a verse and a chorus to an existing melody and a chord progression. And I finished it in Vancouver in the apartment that we were staying in for the week. When Leroy got there, I showed him the idea, and we wrote the second verse for it, and that's the last song on the record, called "What a World."
Right.
Um, yeah, so everything happened actually really quickly, because like I said, I didn't have any songs about 5 weeks prior to recording, and then I had 15 songs, and then we recorded 13 of them in 4 days. So it was a very compacted process, which, I hadn't done in a while, because COVID kind of stretched everything out
Right.
in so many ways.
Are you used to writing that quickly, or is it normally something that comes a little slower?
It happens both ways, to be honest, Alan, but I mean, a lot of times people will remark at how quickly I do write songs. But to me, it just feels like my process. Like there's always um, a rush of songs, or a big onslaught of ideas after a lull. It kind of
Right.
just ebbs and flows like that, where I'll kind of just naturally stop writing, because I've exhausted myself,
Right.
and then eventually, naturally, I pick up a guitar one day and something happens. Um, and then I know that it's time to pick up a guitar every day and wait for them to show up. It's a bizarre way of doing it, but that's how it works for me. I don't ever really try to sit down and work on songs or force them, except for in this case where I needed to sit down and write songs, and I was just I was just lucky that they showed up. I didn't really know if they would. Um, and I just had to get down to business, so I did, and luckily it paid off. But that's usually my process. It just kind of goes in these. Usually, it's about 2 or 3 weeks of writing, and then after that, I can't do any more, because I'm tapped,
Right.
until I'm inspired again by something that subconsciously creeps in and needs to get out. So, and actually, today I wrote something for the first time in about a month. So who knows? Maybe there's another windfall coming.
Right. No, sonically, you've allowed me to listen to the album ahead of doing this chat. I'm getting somewhat of a, maybe I'm way off, a bit of a Daniel Lanois vibe to it. I don't know if that would be accurate or not, but some of his solo stuff.
Well, it certainly, yeah, I'll be honest with you. Like, that wasn't one of the touchstones that we went for, or
Yeah.
that we discussed. But both me and Leroy are huge Daniel Lanois fans.
Right.
We just I'm an incredible Daniel Lanois fan. Like, the amount of uh fandom I have for that music is beyond most. So I'm not surprised that naturally something has shown up in the songs, or the vibe. But to be honest with you, it wasn't intentional at all. That's really great to hear, because that's a good sign. Um, his records sound incredible. But as far as the touchstones that we actually did use, or sort of parameters that we laid out for ourselves, it was stuff like John Martin and Nick Drake,
Mhm.
and British folk music was what I was listening to a lot of at that time. And so
Right.
I wrote a lot of songs in open tunings on acoustic guitars, and sort of shot for that. We wanted to do 10 songs, about 30 minutes, keep the mood steady, don't break from the mood very much. So I
Right.
think with what we laid out, or what we tried to achieve, we definitely did. Um, but there's always going to be room for those accidental sonic touchstones, and uh, I'll gladly accept a comparison to Lanois, being that I love him so much. So thanks.
No, no worries. I just, yeah, just sometimes I guess it just comes out whether you want it to or not, because you're just such a fan of an artist, right? Like,
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's it's inside somewhere. It's gonna leak out eventually in the creative process.
So how long have you had this material done, and why are you waiting till now to put it out? Like, not that it matters, but I mean, like, you obviously recorded it in 2022, and we're getting to the end of 2023. Like, was it pretty much done, and you're just waiting for the time you want to put it out, or?
Um, yeah, there's a few factors. I always felt like it was a fall record,
Mhm.
and I didn't have the ducks in a row for last fall.
Right.
Um, so I kind of just held on to it. That was one of the first reasons. But along the road, um, there was some interest from a label in British Columbia called Tonic Records.
Okay.
Um, and in the process of working out the details of that deal, it just sort of took this long, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so Tonic Records are actually putting this record out. And in fact, the release date of October 20th has now been pushed into November, to allow for a little bit more time. But I guess what we'll say is the soft release date. Anybody who pre-ordered this album is going to have it on October 20th. That's a that's going to happen. It won't go on streaming probably until November
Right.
sometime. And the physical copies will be ready very soon. So anybody who pre-ordered the physical stuff will get their copies soon. So it's kind of coming out in waves. Um, and that's all right, to me. And maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I would have been frustrated with the rollout of something, but these days, I don't actually think there's any rules we need to follow anymore. We can just do
No.
whatever we want. Yeah. So it's a record that's coming out in various ways. Um, and I'm really excited to put it out. I've been excited to put it out since I made it. Um, Although recently I was asked about how I felt about it, which is, I was shocked actually when I went back to it because it has been so long since I recorded it.
Right.
And I recorded it so quickly. I wrote it quickly and I recorded it quickly that by the time I was done making the record and starting to get mixes, I wasn't that interested in hearing what I had done. I had to listen to the mixes because I wanted to make sure that they were good. And
Right.
Leroy mixed it, and he did an amazing job mixing this record. But I wasn't really. It was the summer, and I was really busy, and I couldn't really tune into the record, and I didn't have
Yeah.
the capacity to sequence it. So I left it. I listened to the mixes and said yes and no, or fix this or that, but I didn't do anything with it until around the fall because I knew that that's kind of when. Well, I sequenced it because it had to be mastered, but I didn't really listen to it aside from knowing that the master sounded good. And then when I finally got back into it, which was around when I knew that the releasing of the album was starting to creep up and planning needed to happen around the springtime this year, as almost a full year later. And I was walking my son, my new son, who's less than 6 months old at that time,
Right.
around the area in Stratford, Prince Edward Island, and I was listening to this album in my headphones, and I was just blown away at how much I really loved this record because I gave it some distance, and I'd never done that with an album before. So when I tuned back into it, I was really impressed with it. Like I wasn't sure that it was any good or something, and then all of a sudden I was completely floored that actually this is really good. I was surprised. I surprised myself with my own record, which has never happened before in my life. I've always listened intensely to an album as I'm making it until it's out, and then I don't listen to it ever again, pretty much.
Right.
So what a different experience this was, and I feel like it's really given that this album kind of a special place in my heart, um, for a few reasons, but for one, mostly because I'm just really proud of the songs.
Is it going to get a vinyl release too?
Yep, yep.
Awesome. Can't wait to get a copy of that.
Yeah,
Um, Now I'm not sure about your, I'm gonna share a picture here. I don't know if you can see that.
I can. Yeah.
So you've got a kind of a, like you said, a soft release date at the
Yes.
Trailside this Saturday,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're gonna have a full band with you.
Actually, it says band on that poster, but it's just going to be me
Oh,
performing.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah. It was supposed to be a band, but things just didn't pan out. So I'm gonna save the band show for later on.
okay,
It's a pretty dense record, and I didn't really want to put a band on stage if it wasn't the perfect situation. So
right,
um, I feel like I'll be able to kind of introduce the songs to the audience a little bit easier if it's just me this time around, and we'll wait for another opportunity to put a band on the stage. It'll happen eventually, but I just really want it to be the perfect situation, which I just think that the songs deserve to be played
right.
accurately.
Is that the Point Pram Lighthouse by any chance?
It is.
I figured I've been there a few times myself, so I kind of
Yeah.
recognize it. But no, that's really cool. Um,
Yeah.
so are you going to be doing more gigs as the official release date comes out? Like you said, you will do a full band show eventually, but is there going to be like a tour or anything like that, or is it just going to be like gigs here and there once in a while?
It'll be gigs here and there once in a while for now while we build what we're doing with the label.
Right,
Next year there'll be more touring. Um, but for now, there's a scattering of shows in the East Coast. I
right.
have some Nova Scotia and New Brunswick shows. I'm playing in Ottawa on the 27th of October. Um, and I'm doing a show at the Harborfront Theater for a songwriter circle that my friend Megan Blanchard put together.
Oh, very
That's
cool.
on October 29th at the Harborfront Theater. So it'll be a little bit of moving around and playing shows, but not really a tour per se. With the way my life is right now, I've got two small children at home. It's pretty hard to leave for any great length of time, and if you're gonna
Right,
do a tour, you got to go and do it for at least 2 weeks, and that's hard to do right now. So
right,
I'm just gonna wait until the opportunities really present themselves and make sense to go for that long. I'm just gonna go for little pockets of time. Um, because the other thing about it is we're almost at winter time here. It's
yeah,
not a great time to tour.
no,
Um, and The world is a different place. The music business is a bit of a different beast right now. I'm just kind of waiting for that to level out before I try to really engage again. But I'm making a lot of music. I've got, like you said, this album was recorded in April of 2022. And since
right,
then, I've got almost a full album made that I've been picking away at here in PEI. And then I've also got uh, an album that I'm half done making with Jim Bryson up in the Ottawa area. So
okay,
I have a lot of music uh, that I've been working on. That's kind of what I've focused on most through COVID or through this strange time. And eventually I'll stop making so many albums and start promoting them. But I'm waiting for the situation to shift. The tides need to shift a little bit. I feel like there's a lot of people still apprehensive or like can't afford to go out and take chances on shows, or
right,
it's a tough time. And with two small children at home, I can't really afford to go out and not come home with money. So
right.
it puts me on the it puts touring on the back burner for the time being. I would like to go back to Europe eventually,
Hmm.
um, uh, but I don't really know when that would be. Hopefully in 2024. So we'll see. I am definitely going to spend some time promoting this record, though. I think it deserves the attention from me. I need to give it the attention it deserves.
And I saw you had a busy summer with Fabulously Rich. You kept busy with them quite a bit. You're still keeping busy with them from what I see.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we did just finish 4 weekends in a row of shows. Now we have a month off while I go and do some shows around the East Coast and go
Right.
up to Ottawa. Um, and then when I get back from all of that, we have a pretty big weekend in Nova Scotia. We're playing the Marquee in Halifax, and we're playing in Bridgewater, and we're playing in Wolfville. And then we have a huge hometown show in Charlottetown. Actually, this is the first time that we've tried to take on a big show like this in Charlottetown. Um, we're going to be playing the PEI Brewing Company on November 25th.
Oh,
So
it's a great venue.
it is, and I think that it'll allow for, a spectacle, um, which is kind of what we're trying to put together. So, it's if everything lines up, it'll be 500 or 600 people in a room really
Mhm.
grooving to the Tragically Hip's music, um, and that's kind of what we're hoping for. As we've done, we've played the trail side so much, and we all love the trail side, and we would play there 3 nights in a row, and sell 150 or 175 tickets, and we just kind of thought, why not try to roll all of that into one night, make it a bigger event,
Right.
kind of with the PEI Brewing Company's machine behind it, and we got some radio going, and it's going to be great. It's just uh, that'll be the last show we play in PEI for 2023. So we're we have a little bit left to do this year, but the bulk of our 2023 work is behind us, and now we're planning for 2024. But man, we are just like, we can't stop doing this because people just keep coming. They want to hear it.
Yeah.
They're having a they're having a blast, and we can see in their faces, in their eyes, that this means something very special to them, and it drives us to the next gig. It keeps us going,
No,
for sure.
I saw you guys got pulled in at the last minute to fill in for Glass Tiger this summer up at the Tyne Valley Festival. How did that go for you guys?
That was fun. That was pretty cool. Yeah. Chilliwack was on right before us. It was strange, but it was really great. That was a bit of a whirlwind day.
Right.
As I woke up that day, and the organizing guys from Rock the Boat were fantastic. They they Adam called me scrambling and basically just said, we're we need you guys to close the show if you can. But then he was like, but we got to check with Chilliwack first. We got to make sure that they don't want to close the show. And later on in that day, the guys in Chilliwack were thanking us for doing it because they're too old to be up that late. And so, yeah, it was pretty funny. We had a really great day, but we had to be there all day. So we had to
Yeah.
change. Instead of getting no sound check, we had to get there for noon, and most of the guys weren't even awake at the point where I was trying to decide whether or not we could pull this off. So I just had to kind of make a decision for everybody, try to get everybody out of bed so that we could get our asses up to, because it was a Sunday, I think,
Yeah.
so we could get up to Tyne Valley and do a sound check. So anyway, it was great. It was fun. We had a great day together and played a cool show. The crowd really enjoyed it, and I think overall there was only a handful of people that asked for their money back because they didn't get to see Glass Tiger.
Yeah.
Uh, Me personally, I mean, I enjoyed playing that slot, And the first slot we were going to do was only 20 minutes or something like that. So
Right.
it's hard to play for 20 minutes
Sure.
because you just get going and then you're done. But this was a 90-minute set, which was great. But for me personally, I was looking forward to seeing Glass Tiger. I've listened to Glass Tiger since I was, you know, 10 or 12 years old.
Right.
My mom gave me the Thin Red Line tape in my stocking one year for Christmas, and I've never seen Glass Tiger, so I was kind of bummed about that, but it worked out all right too. We all had a good day together, and that's a cool festival. We were glad to play it. So yeah,
Uh, And then Glass Tiger and Chilliwack were just inducted into the Canadian Walk of Fame recently in
I
Toronto
know.
with a bunch of other
Yeah,
amazing bands. I think April Wine was on there and Parachute
yeah.
Club, like just an amazing lineup of. So it's kind of cool to be able to play with one of those guys before they get such an honor bestowed on them.
Oh yeah. Chilliwack were great too. Seeing those guys, that was really cool. Um, I mean, they're legendary Canadian bands.
Right.
I actually know somebody who went to that show or the inductee celebration, and they said it was incredible. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It was nice to be. Those guys were great. Chilliwack were cool dudes.
Um,
Sounded
I'm
fantastic too.
I'm not sure if this strikes your interest or not, but there's a screening of this Much Music documentary coming to Charlottetown next week, which I have tickets for. And I've done an interview with Michael Williams already about it.
Oh, really?
I don't know if it's something you're interested in, but it's coming to the Confed Center and some of the VJs are coming to do a question and answer after the screening. So
Well, that would be right up my alley. I would love to go, but I'm going to be in Ottawa.
oh okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had a screening in Toronto already and had quite a few of the ex Much Music VJs from the old days. And I'm looking
Y-
forward to
Um,
seeing it actually, because I mean they
I
got so
mean,
many
yeah,
they
I
got so
spent
many
so
Canadian
long.
bands going, right? So
Yeah. Much music is responsible for why I do what I do.
yeah,
That network, I remember when my dad finally got, I guess it would have been cable at the time, that included Much Music, and I was just glued to it all the time, waiting for certain videos, to
right.
come on or whatever. Um, but yeah, just an unbelievable, um, unbelievable experience as a child growing up watching Much Music. It's a shame actually that we don't have that sort of thing anymore. I mean,
Right.
there's great stuff still. YouTube is cool and everything, but there was something there's a charm to Much Music that just is gone now in the way that we consume music. Uh,
Yeah.
I think personally, and I'm pretty good friends with, well, really good friends actually with Mike Campbell, um, and I've got lots of Mike Campbell's lots of stories from Mike Campbell over the years, but I'll see this documentary. I've also heard that they're digitizing their entire uh, archive,
That would be amazing.
apparently.
Yeah, that'd be something
Yeah,
to see. Yeah.
I mean
Um,
that's got to be I don't know, like a year's, 2 year, 3 years worth of how, like, that's constant. I don't know what they're digitizing. If they probably wouldn't be doing everything,
yeah.
but they're probably doing the features, the specials, and the
Yeah.
interviews and stuff like that.
Some of those intimate interactives would
So
be really neat to see.
oh, amazing. Yeah. I'd love to see the hip one again, actually.
Yeah, didn't they do
And
one
they
when
did, they did
Phantom
one
Power came
around
out or
I think it was Music at Work. I
oh
think it might have
yes,
been
I
the
think you're
Music
right.
at Work one.
I do remember seeing that when Music
Yeah.
at Work came out. That's right. But man, they broke so many
Um,
Canadian
and there
bands
was
in
a
their
there was a
day.
Daniel Lanois.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But they broke
There
so
was a
many
Daniel
Canadian
Lanois one that would be cool to see again.
they broke so many
Much
Canadian
Music did?
bands.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I mean just they played
Yeah.
anything and everything. Like I mean, if you were making your record back in the late 80s, early 90s, they would have played you just because you're a
Yeah.
Canadian band and you have a
Well,
record out.
my old band, the Rude Mechanicals, did get quite a bit of play on Much Music,
Yeah,
for a few videos we made. Um, Actually, I remember though, we made a really great video. A friend of ours had this idea to make a video where he took basically it was like a live action cartoon. He took
right.
photographs. He took photographs, so many photographs of all the frames, and put them together
Yeah,
so that they would run like, but it was all photographs. And
yeah,
when we presented it to them, they said that it didn't meet their standards. It didn't meet their format standards. So
right.
this incredible video didn't get shown, which is a real bummer. But anyway, yeah, they did. They broke so many bands, and you know the reason I consume music to this day as I do, or as much as I do, those guys, yet Much Music, are definitely responsible for that. Um, because I mean, we had radio stations, obviously, and we had record stores here, but the radio stations didn't really play the music that I wanted to hear,
Yeah,
but Much Music did,
yeah.
you know.
And
So
Mike Campbell was he not, that's another thing I liked about Much Music. Mike Campbell did the Much East thing every week, giving all the maritime
he did
acts
Much East,
their yeah.
yeah. But him and Mike Rhodes, they started doing they did the Mike and Mike's Excellent Cross Canada Adventure
Yes,
show
that's right too.
first,
Yeah,
so he was constantly traveling around, basically talking to bands, or artists. And I still remember too the Blind Melon Intermittent Interactive. That was a really great one.
right.
I taped that one actually, and I watched it so many times. Uh, yeah, and there was a great Sloan one too, actually.
Yeah, I think there was too. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember being outside during the Lenny Kravitz one.
haha,
I remember being
crazy.
outside that night. Yeah.
When I moved to Toronto, I used to walk down to Much Music quite a bit.
Hmm.
Walk through the crowds on a Saturday night for Electric Circus or whatever it was.
Okay.
That was pretty wild to see that. And I remember they used for a little while too. They did those parking lot shows. REM did a parking lot show at one point in time at
I
Much
remember
Music.
that. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a great resource. As a music fan growing up in Canada, that was the best for me. That until the internet came along, that was it. So it'd be really great if all of that content was made. I would pay for that if there was some sort of
Yeah,
subscription
sure.
to a Much Music website or whatever that housed all of that great content. I would definitely pay for that.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see what they do with it. Um,
Yeah,
anyway, I can't thank you enough for joining me again, Dennis. It's great to talk to you again. Good luck with the new album. I really like it a lot. Um,
thanks, Alan.
I'm hoping to get out to
Appreciate
see
that.
you play some shows around. I'm sure you'll play around Charlottetown quite a bit, around PEI.
The show I'm playing on the 20th is the last show I have booked for the year, aside from the show I'm doing, the Songwriter Circle in Summerside. But I will be putting something together probably for the spring, actually, with the full band. So yeah, I'll be buzzing around. I usually take the winters off just because it's pretty crummy.
And it's
But
not fun to drive either.
no, it's not a good time to tour. You can get kind of stuck out there if you have bad luck. But I'll definitely be around, so you'll have an opportunity to catch a show sometime,
Awesome. I look forward to it.
without a doubt.
Thanks for joining me, Dennis. Good luck with everything. Hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, my pleasure, Alan. You too. Take care.